The untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing game's been missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, got a great live plan for you guys today, man. There's just so much to talk about in the world of boxing. We got the Spence Crawford supposedly is going to get done, and I actually have reason to believe it will actually happen now because I got a phone call today that I won't get too deep into, but someone reliable told me that it's pretty much it's gonna happen. I think it'll happen at this point. So you have that. You have Tyson Fury calling out Derek Chisora, making a complete ass of himself, and then the main subject of this live is Conor Benn, Chris Eubank, because Conor Benn and Chris Eubank, they went ahead and they made a fight. Now, I got mixed feelings about the fight. We'll get into that. I see everybody in the YouTube bias communities talking about Crawford, Spence almost being done. But if you know anything about me, if you know anything about your boy BT, Brendan Taylor, the untouchable True School Sports Empire, then you would know that I don't give a fuck if a fight is nearly done. I care about if it's done. I care about if it's finalized. So, unless you got a date, unless you got a fight poster, a network, you got your I's dotted and your T's crossed, I don't care if it's nearly done. So we'll get to Crawford and Spence later on in the live, but the main subject is gonna be Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. because guess what? You can add it to the list. Until Crawford and Spence get made, you can add it to the list of all the fights in boxing that are bigger than Crawford and Spence. And do you want to know why? Do you want to know why it's bigger than Crawford versus Spence? Why is it? Somebody out there answer me. Why is Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn bigger than Crawford versus Spence? Because it's finalized. That's why it's bigger. So let's get into it, man. Shout out to everybody here. Make sure you smash that like button if you're watching live. If you're watching the playback, smash that like button because that lets YouTube know that you're rocking with your boy BT and the untouchable True School Sports Empire. Let's get to a couple comments first before I get into the Chris Eubank Conor Benn stuff because it literally just got announced. I ran some errands today. I made a pizza. It was quite delicious. And then I took a little nap. And then I woke up and I just saw this poster, this fight poster that was everywhere, and it got made while I was taking my nap. So it made sense to go live for it. So shout out to my main man Kevin Effect. He says first, shout out to you, Kev. Good to see you. He says because it's not made, because it's not official. Any fight in boxing, any fight you can name, that's official. That's gonna take place until Crawford and Spence get signed. Is bigger than Crawford versus Spence. Teofimo Lopez versus Pedro Campa is bigger than Terence Crawford versus Earl Spence. Virgil Ortiz versus Michael McKinson was bigger than Terence Crawford and Earl Spence. And people don't like when I say that, but instead of getting mad at me, why don't you tell them to hurry the hell up and make the damn fight happen? You know what I'm saying? So we'll see, man. But let's get into it, man. Shout out to Michael Manning. Yup, it's all bigger. It's happening, and that's right. It's happening. Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank are reigniting the Nigel Benn Chris Eubank rivalry here in 2022. I have a lot of thoughts and there's a lot of things to say in regards to this fight. So good to see you, Mike. Hope all is well with you and the rest of you guys here. But let's get into it, man. Let's go to screen share and let's unpack what the hell this all means. So for those that know and for those that don't know, Conor Benn will be taking on Chris Eubank Jr. October the 8th in London at the O2 Arena. Is going to be a momentous occasion. Now, as far as the boxing side of it's concerned, this fight really doesn't mean anything. Like these guys aren't in the same division. There's no titles on the line. They're fighting at a catchweight. So on that end, it really doesn't mean anything. But this is a massive event because of the names. I mean, when you talk about British boxing and the history of British boxing, it's impossible to talk about the history of British boxing without talking about the fathers of these two young men, Chris Eubank and Conor Benn. So the fact that we're gonna get a fight between their sons all these years, a couple decades later, it's something you would see in a movie script. And this is a big deal because for people in the UK that don't really follow boxing but know about their fathers, this is gonna have a lot of eyeballs on it. So the winner of this fight has a chance to really push their stardom in a major direction to become a bigger star. in the sport of boxing, and get those bragging rights for their bloodline. So it's actually, in some ways, you could actually say it's bigger than the titles. Honestly, you could really say that, because this is all about legacy. This is all about pride. This is all about honoring your father's last name. And I would beg to differ and say that as a man in life, the most important thing you can do is honor your father's last name with pride, honor, and dignity. So a lot on the line for these guys. But let's get into the official particulars, the details of this fight. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, there's going to be no belt at stake for this fight. It's going to be at an agreed upon catch weight of 156 pounds. So for Conor Benn, that's going to be 11 pounds above the welterweight limit. For Chris Eubank, that's going to be just 4 pounds beneath the 160 middleweight limit. So, really the guy that's at a disadvantage here, I believe, is Conor Benn. He's putting on the weight. He's fighting a naturally bigger guy. Conor Benn or Chris Eubank is naturally 3 inches taller, so he's bigger. He's bigger than him. But Benn is the fresher fighter. He's hasn't taken as much punishment as Conor Benn or as Eubank has. So there's that part of it. But as far as Eubank's concerned, this is going to be 2 pounds below his career low weight of 158 and a quarter pounds, which was all the way back in 2014. So 4 pounds may not seem a lot for Eubank, but he hasn't boxed at 158 in 8 years. He's been a 160 guy for a long time. So maybe those 2 pounds come into play during that weight cut, and they actually wind up making it more fatigued. So something to look out for. This for Conor Benn, this is the heaviest he's gonna be weighed since 2019 when he weighed 148.5 pounds. So both these guys are gonna be at a weight that they're not really accustomed to. That really isn't probably the most advantageous or the best for their bodies. But both guys it's a big money fight. So both these guys, I'm more than sure if they're gonna make these kind of sacrifices with their bodies, they're going to be compensated accordingly for that. If not, then they have bad people in their team structuring these contracts. And like I said, the visibility that this fight's going to have is just absolutely massive. The fight just got announced within the last hour or so, and I kid you not, it already feels like a big fight. Like I'm getting that, even though like I really said I wouldn't care about this fight, and even though like it really don't mean anything. Because it's official, and I've been waiting for Crawford and Spence so long, and these guys actually went ahead and made it official. I'm getting those big fight feels, and I'm kind of excited for it. I'm kind of excited to see, does this wind up being for Conor Benn, his version of Golovkin versus Kell Brook, and does his career get ruined by fighting a naturally bigger guy in Chris Eubank Jr. Or does this fight actually wind up being something for Conor Benn to where he actually winds up winning and his star power exceeds to the umpteenth power, because that can happen. If Conor Benn comes out here and he finds a way to beat Chris Eubank Jr., then all of a sudden you're looking at a guy who's a much, much bigger star now, and his stock will just shoot through the roof. So it's a lot on the line for him. He's taking a big gamble here, in my opinion. But yeah, so it's going to be a big fight. Let me see if there's any comments. Let me see. Shout out to everybody here. We got... Let me see. I'm still alive. Okay. No, you're not anymore. You're gonna get. Hold on. Where you at? I'm still alive. I don't talk to these people that wouldn't do shit in real life if we saw each other. So, have a nice day. We got a super chat. Shout out to my main man Andrade. You guys know the drill. When the super chats come out, so does Scott Steiner. So Scott Steiner, put these hoes in the Steiner recliner. Put them in the Steiner recliner.
Pump and grind. And it's only a matter of time because they call me the big bad booty daddy.
Man, Andre with the super chat. He says he says right here. He says Eubank and Benn is a buzzworthy fight. Biggest fight the UK has had this year, in my opinion. It will resonate in North America as well. Not high on Benn, but I have to admit he has turned out better than I thought. Yeah, I would say this, guys. You gotta appreciate the journey of Conor Benn. I know we all have our criticisms of him because we wish that he would fight certain guys in the welterweight division. But, I mean, I remember 3 years ago, 3 years and some change ago when he fought Cedric Pinoy, and Cedric Pinoy damn near stopped him when he was prospect. He looked so bad in that fight, and he's come such a long way. And the fact that he's even mixed it up with some of the veteran fighters he has and been able to beat them has showed you his growth. And now, finally, he's in a big a blockbuster fight as far as the UK is concerned. So, absolutely, it's a big deal. Milky Way wants to know what weight will the fight be at. I just said it earlier. It was
156, isn't it?
156. Yeah, 156. So it's gonna be at 156, 11 pounds above the welterweight limit, 4 pounds below the middleweight limit. Which is interesting because, like I said a couple minutes ago, Eubank has never boxed below 158 ever.
Wow.
And Benn has only boxed as high as 148, and that was 3 years ago.
Oh shit.
So uncharted territory for both these guys. So it really is something to it's gonna be something to watch. Something to watch. We got Pop. You want me on camera? 'Cause I know the.
Yeah, I just want to say this real quick.
We got Pops here.
I mean, for the English fans, they got a big treat. Last year when they had the Kell Brook and Khan fight. And
that was this year.
Oh, this year, and now they're getting also another treat with the Eubank and Benn. And I guess shout out to Eddie Hearns, because at least he knows where to get the money at. Those last names are gonna make him a lot of money. I'm really not very high on Eubank. I do like Benn. Hopefully this will plateau him to move to better fights, and I wish him the best.
Wish him the best. Absolutely. There you go. Pops just came in to chime in real quickly.
Yeah.
He's still healing up from the incident he had yesterday. Anyway, what was I going? So I wanted to talk some more about this. Hey, man, I'm excited about it because, look, man, it's not every day in boxing you get fights that actually get announced and finalized. So it's great. So this is the official fight poster. Now, look, you got to give them credit. They really went ahead and they made this. This is one of the most badass fight posters I've seen in a long time. I mean, that fight poster is unlike the Artur Beterbiev, Joe Smith Jr. fight poster level, because for those that don't remember, look, I'll show you. For those that don't remember, this was the Artur Beterbiev Joe Smith poster, Into Deep Waters, where they literally had Beterbiev and Smith under the water. The irony of that is they called it Into Deep Waters, and then Beterbiev knocked his ass out in 2 rounds. So there were no deep waters, But it was a great poster. But to me, this is one of the best posters I've seen in a while. So it says Born Rivals on the top. Eubank versus Benn, October 8th, 02 London, and then it has a picture of the fathers, Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank from the illustrious fights back in the 90s at the bottom. So they really took the time with this one. I will point out one thing, and I gotta point it out. I hate to be that guy. I hate to sound like the dickhead boxing fan that can't appreciate nothing. But let's just be real. Some of us have long memories, and this fight's on DAZN pay-per-view. And when DAZN was founded, it was founded on the principle of it not being pay-per-view. So once again, added to the list. Bivol versus Canelo versus Golovkin, and now Eubank versus Benn. So you're talking about, for DAZN, a platform that once was all about no pay-per-views and eliminating the pay-per-view business model. Now they're all about pay-per-view. They're all about premium fights. Listen, I understand why they're doing it. I'm not an idiot. I know why they're doing it, because they need to. So they say they need to have pay-per-view in order to deliver premium fights and be able to offer fighters competitive purses to get the fight on the platform. That's what they say. But still, it doesn't matter. If you come out and say you weren't gonna do pay-per-views at first, you gotta be a man of your word. But we know that's not how it works in boxing. It's all about turning over a profit. Shout out to my main man. I see you in the comments. Punch Perfect Boxing. Make sure you guys go subscribe to my main man, Punch Perfect Boxing, out there in the UK grinding. I'm sure he's excited about this fight. I'm excited about it too, because it's gonna be a great fight. There were some quotes that were released. There were some interviews and content that were released on DAZN and the Matchroom Boxing platforms and things like that. But here's what Chris Eubank Jr. had to say about Conor Benn, and I quote: "He's walked the same path as I have. I know his struggle, living in the shadow of a legend and trying to break out of that shadow and make his own name. If he can beat me, his name will be made, and he will never walk in his father's shadow ever again." End quote. And you know what? I think that's an interesting point, because I feel like, especially for Conor Benn, because Conor Benn, Eubank's 32, Eubank's already had a couple big fights where he fell short. Eubank's had more time in the sport than Benn. Benn still has, unless he gets the crap kicked out of him his best years in front of him in boxing. So if he beats Chris Eubank, like I said earlier, that's just gonna shoot his star power to the umpteenth power, and I think it'll be a big step in towards like fully breaking the shadow of being in his father's shadow. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it is. Hey, shout out to my. I see you in the comments boxing now. I'm gonna read this last. Where is it? No, that's not it. Never mind. Let me go to the comments. We got some heavy hitters in the chat, man. We got some heavy hitters in the chat. So like I said earlier, Punch Perfect Boxing. Shout out to him. Make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe to him. He's on the rise. He's doing his thing. You know, I've been on YouTube a long time. I've seen many channels come and go over the years. And I've seen a lot of fraud perpetrating people on YouTube over the years. But this guy right here, you can tell when someone loves the sport, and he really loves the sport. He follows the amateurs. He posts about the amateurs. He follows the Latin fighters that nobody talks about. So, you know, this is a guy. This guy's a real one. Shout out to Punch Perfect Boxing. Will Conor Benn ever fight outside the UK, or is he hidden by Matchroom? He's not coming to America unless it's for a big money fight. You know, that's what it is. I think when the hype on him reaches its peak in the UK, that's when they take him to America. When they get the Americans, you know, fully invested into what's going on with Conor Benn, then he comes to America. But that I still think we're a couple fights away from that. Shout out to my main man, another heavy hitter, Boxing Now. Go subscribe to Boxing Now. Now I actually wrote this down because look, I have my little notes right here of what to talk about, so I don't get off track for today because there's a lot to talk about. But he says, Demetrius Andrade, Boo Boo was sitting at home heartbroken. You know, since he brought it up, let me just say it. I told you guys. I specifically told you that when Demetrius Andrade made that ridiculous video in a parking lot calling out Chris Eubank, I told you it was a waste of time. I told you that he was wasting his breath, he was wasting his energy, he was wasting his time, and a lot of the people out there. Now I'm gonna clip this part of the live and put this out as a video later on. But like a lot of the Demetrius Andrade fans, the ones that that would agree with me when I took up for Andrade, you guys were calling me two-faced, and y'all were saying I was in the wrong because Eubank's a big name and all this stuff. But I kept telling you, Eubank's not gonna fight him. Eubank is not going to fight him. Eubank, I've been telling you guys the whole year. Eubank was only concerned with fighting welterweights. Whether it was Kell Brook or Conor Benn, he wanted to fight welterweights. And he got his fight against a welterweight. So I was right. You guys that were calling me names and saying all these things, y'all motherfuckers was wrong. Kiss the ring, bow down to the untouchable, and really just you know, shove it. Like you guys didn't know what you were talking about when you came up on me sideways talking all this nonsense. Now, mind you, I say these things about Andrade because I like Andrade and he's one of my favorite fighters. I don't want him to waste his time because you don't have a whole lot of time left. And I think he just needs to go ahead and do the right thing. And then the right thing to do for him is to go fight Johnny Beck. Which, by the way, it's what? Today's August the 9th, so happy birthday to my mother. You know, it's her birthday today. Shout out to Mom. But, you know, I believe August the 11th is the deadline for something. I can't remember if it was for like until they go to purse bid. So I think if they don't reach a deal by the 11th, they're going to go to purse bid. So he's got to do something. But I'm only bringing up his name to say that he completely wasted his time calling out Chris Eubank Jr. When the hell has Chris Eubank Jr. Ever shown any ambition to do anything, you know, as far as fighting the best people? He had to fight Groves and these kind of guys because he was in a tournament. But like ever since the World Boxing Super Series, he hasn't been trying to do anything with his career. And so for him to call out Eubank at this stage of his career is foolishness. Now, Boxing Now says it was all for attention. He's trying to get eyes on himself. And listen, it worked. It worked. And I know we live in this era now, the social media, Instagram era, where you know everybody's like, well, there's no such thing as unwanted attention. You know, all attention is good attention, and I don't believe in that. I don't think all attention is good attention. I think some attention is good and some attention is bad. But you know, he's trying to make something happen for his career, and that's the way he felt like going about it. Now, my man right here, Gorgura says, I probably said your name wrong. I'm just going to say G. So my man G says, Purse estimates that for Benn and Eubank, it's $6 million plus each. Andrade offered $1 million. So yeah, Like, come on, man. Come on. 6 million plus or 1 million. Which one would you take? The 6 million, of course. Anybody would take the 6 million plus because that's much better money. I mean, million is good, but 6 million plus is like really, really good. That's like you can go on a couple vacations instead of one vacation or 2 vacations. You can go on like 5 vacations. So, they're gonna get paid. Like I said, these Eubank and Benn wouldn't make these kind of concessions and wait if they weren't getting compensated appropriately. So, Andrade wasted his time, and I hope now that this domino has fallen, and now that Demetrius Andrade knows he can't fight Chris Eubank, and he knows he can't fight Golovkin, and he knows he can't fight Canelo. The only option, really, as far as a big name is concerned, is Jamal Charlo, which, I know Jamal Charlo went out and was calling him out while he was drunk, but I don't really think that that's going to be a viable option because I don't think Espinoza and Showtime will make that happen. So, and then Munguia, who's also been trying to fight for the longest, is probably going to fight John Ryder. So the only option is Johnny Beck. So I say all this to say that now that Eubank is fighting Benn, Demetrius Andrade, for the love of God and everything that is righteous, just, and pure, fight your mandatory Johnny Beck. And if you're going to beat him, then beat him. But don't sit here and run around and call these guys out who really don't have any ambition to do anything in the first place, let alone fight someone as difficult as you. So I'm going to leave it at that. But yeah, this fight with Benn and Eubank, this is reigniting a rivalry, a very passionate rivalry between, in the 90s when we had Chris Eubank and Nigel Benn, the first fight. Chris Eubank won the first fight. Right? I believe he won the fight. I got it in front of me. I'm pretty sure he won the first fight. Yeah, Chris Eubank won the first fight when he stopped Nigel Benn when they fought out there in the West Midlands and stopped him in the 9th round. Then the second fight was kind of controversial because they fought a huge box office, in a great arena at the Old Trafford Stadium, home of Manchester United Football Club. And it was a draw. And a lot of people felt like Nigel Benn won the fight and they never fought again. So in a sense, for Conor Benn on his side, this is really unfinished business for his father and trying to carry out that whole legacy. And that's what it is. I have mixed feelings about this fight. Like, I think this fight's going to be fun to follow. I think the build-up's going to be great. I think it's going to be a fun event. But it really doesn't mean anything in the welterweight division. But at the same time, it's like, right now, who would Conor Benn realistically fight? Crawford and Spence are tied up. Virgil Ortiz just fought McKinson. McKinson just fought Virgil Ortiz. Styonis is probably going to fight Boots. Rashidi Ellis just fought recently, so he's not going to fight him. And I don't think he'd fight him anyway because there's not enough money in it. So there really isn't like a ton of options out there for Conor Benn at this moment in time with the way things have played out in this whole welterweight division. So why not, in the meantime, make a big fight and try to, I guess, dare to be great, as they would say. And yeah, it should be a whole lot of fun. So I'm very, very intrigued. I'm very, very excited. I'm very, very pleased that we got some big fight news in boxing. We haven't got a whole lot of big fight news in boxing as of late. So this is a big fight. These are two guys that I really feel are very polarizing figures, not just in British boxing, but in boxing overall. Because I feel like with Benn and Eubank, Jr., you have guys that you either love them or you hate them. There is no in between. Chris Eubank Jr., I'll be honest, I love watching him fight. Like, I really do love watching him fight. I think, he's fun to watch. He's definitely worth my time and everybody's time because he's not the best fighter in the world. He's not the most technically sound guy in the world, but he's explosive and he's athletic and he loves to tear up. So he's always in a great fight, And then for Conor Benn, this is a guy that honestly he was kind of like a better version of Campbell Hatton early in his career. And Campbell Hatton isn't very good, but he was kind of like Campbell Hatton, son of a legendary British fighter. Struggled early on, but then now he's developed and he's become a legitimate, credible, respectable welterweight contender at the world level. A guy that many people want to see fight for the world titles and things like that. So, he's come a long way. And the fact that this is happening for him in his career, I think in itself, you got to appreciate that journey, the fact that that's happened. So, yeah, October the 8th, the O2 Arena. we will have Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. It should be a momentous occasion. I'm looking very, very forward to it. I'm just really hoping for Conor Benn's sake, right? Because my worry is this. 6 years ago, we saw Kell Brook when Kell Brook was an undefeated welterweight champion, a guy that a lot of people were pegging to be the number one welterweight in the world and really kind of ruled the division for a long time. You know, when he was at the peak of his powers, he fought Golovkin, kind of like what Ben is doing now. Golovkin beat the piss out of him, broke his elbow to bone. He was never the same, and the trajectory of his career greatly diminished. You know, still won some fights, was in a big fight earlier this year with Khan, and he won, which was great to end his career on that note. But his career is the ultimate, like, what-if story of the last, decade or so, Kell Brook. Because he had all the ability in the world to really be that top guy for a long time, and we never really got to see it. We never got to see, him, in my opinion, at his peak, because I believe his peak was taken from him that night against Golovkin. So, yeah. I'm hoping for Ben it's not like that. I don't think Conor Benn is as talented as Kell Brook. I don't think he has the skill set of Kell Brook, in my opinion. But, he's still a young fighter, still developing, and you hate to see his career completely get shattered and ruined just because of a money grab. So, hopefully, honestly, look, win, lose, or draw for Conor Benn, I just hope that after this fight, he gets out safely. He hasn't taken too much damage, and that's what it is. I don't care if he wants to lose. I just hope he don't get his career ruined by Chris Eubank Jr. because he's fighting a bigger guy. So those are my thoughts on that fight. And yeah, so there's that. Now there are a couple other things I wanted to talk about unboxing. Shout out to all 15 of you here. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Take the time to subscribe if you're new here. And definitely, if you got any comments, feel free to leave them. If you love the channel and you want to support, definitely feel free to super chat. But let's talk about the main thing in boxing right now, because the main thing in boxing right now happens to be this whole like Crawford and Spence thing. And everywhere I go, I see Crawford and Spence and Crawford. Now, you guys know how I am. I don't give a damn if a fight is damn near close to being done, because I've been hearing that this fight has been close to being done for months on end now. At some point, just like with Benn versus Eubank, I want to see a fight poster. I want to see some fight promos. I want to know a venue, date, time, network. I want all the T's dotted and all the I's crossed so I can finally just get excited about the fight, because this is a fight that I've not just me, but every boxing fan, every boxing content creator has talked about to no end. Crawford and Spence. We talked about it to no end. We just want to see the damn fight already. So make the damn shit happen. But the positive thing is, a big credible name in boxing as far as reporting is concerned, Dan Raphael, he said, and I quote, per sources, a deal for Spence Crawford is nearing completion and the fight is penciled in for November 12th or 19th, likely in Las Vegas. Assuming that it's finalized, PBC is already looking at the undercard possibilities with the WBA regular champion Styonus likely to appear. So that would have to mean that, shout out to Styonus, because I believe Styonus could have fought Spence, and he would have to take some sort of step-aside money. So shout out to him. I would like to see, if this fight gets done, before I get into Crawford Spence, I would like to see Styonus fight Jaron Ennis. I think Jaron Ennis needs a really good step-up fight. He's the future of the welterweight division. Styonus, also is the future of the welterweight division. He just doesn't get talked about because he's from Lithuania, and he don't really talk like that. I don't know if he speaks English or anything like that, but he don't do. I haven't really seen any interviews of him like that. So he's the least heralded of the younger welterweights, but he's very, very good, and he's coming off of a very, very credible win against Butiev in his last fight. And I think if there was ever a time to get the eyeballs on a guy like Jaron Boots Ennis, the time to get the eyeballs on a guy like Jaron Boots Ennis would be on a massive undercard like this. You take him, he fights Styonus in the co-main event, Spence Crawford, and then at that point, it's up to Jaron Ennis to deliver. At that point, he'll have to actually perform against a young, undefeated opponent like him under big circumstances. And then if he gets beat up, then that's on him. But if he delivers, then now you're talking about him maybe being in line to fight the winner of this fight. Or if the belts fragment and they vacate and move up, then he's in line to fight for one of the vacant belts next. So Styonus versus Ennis, I believe, has to happen on this undercard, in my opinion. But If this fight happens in Las Vegas, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is an MGM Grand caliber fight. You know, this would be an undisputed fight. This would be a fight between two guys that, you know, a lot of people are high on. You know, a lot of people right now rate Terrence Crawford the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. I personally don't have Usyk #1 unless he loses against Joshua. Then that would change, obviously, on the 20th. But Crawford is the goods, man. He is that guy. He is like one of the best fighters in the world. He's been boxing's most consistent performer fight by fight. You know, 8 straight stoppages. He's knocked out all of his opponents since he moved up to welterweight. So this is going to be a big test for him because a lot of people say, well, Terrence Crawford hasn't won a big fight. Terrence Crawford, you know, he hasn't been in a big fight like he's going to be in with Errol Spence. So with that being said, Terrence Crawford is going to actually have to deliver. He's going to have to be everything he said he was. And for Errol Spence, the reality is this. Errol Spence has been a very consistent performer too. Guy's been atop the welterweight division for more than half a decade. Guy's unified titles and found a way to win fights in a numerous amount of ways. Got a good volume jab, very good pressure style. But the reality with Errol Spence is that he ain't found no way like as good as Terrence Crawford, in my opinion. And you can say the same for Terrence as well. They haven't fought anybody as good as each other at this point. This is a signature fight in their careers. Now, this is only my opinion. I don't want to get too deep into this, but I truly think that the reason this fight hasn't happened in the first place was due more so to Spence and Heyman. You know, this fight could have been done years ago, but they started playing games with these fake politics, and that's why we are where we are now. So I kind of view him as like the Amir Khan to Crawford's Kell Brook. This is like the American Amir Khan Kell Brook situation, and I kind of view Spence in the negotiations as the Amir Khan, as the guy that was the Olympian, the guy with more fanfare, but the guy that moved the goalposts and really didn't want the fight as much as he postured like he did. You know what I'm saying? So he's going to have to actually go in there and deliver if this fight happens, and I'm looking very forward to hopefully, for not for my sake, because for me personally, like I wouldn't have cared if this fight happened or not, but for the sake of boxing fans, for the sake of the fans that wanted this fight, I really do hope that this fight lives up to the billing, because we're talking about, you know, undisputed welterweight champion. You know, we're talking about one of the biggest fights in the history of this division. And, you know, so this is big stuff. This is big time stuff. And, you know, in an ideal world, if you can match Jaron Ennis versus Styontis on the undercard in the co-main event, if Jaron Ennis can get past Styontis, I would like Jaron Ennis to fight the winner of this fight. I really do feel like these guys, whoever wins this fight, should have to fight Jaron Ennis or one of the young guns before they leave, since they made everyone wait so damn long. You know, it's been ridiculous, to be honest with you. But good news. It's good news. It's a welcome sign, and just hopefully, for the sake of boxing fans, for the sake of people that want to see the fight, you know, it can happen. You know, so hold on. Let me just get this guy out of here. This bitch ass nigga, bro. Get him out of here. There you go. So yeah, that's that. So hopefully it gets done. You know, but I'm not gonna talk too much about it because look, I have a hard time. Look, when it gets done, listen. When the fight actually gets done, we'll do a whole live about Crawford and Spence, and we'll have fun with it. And then I can just enjoy the build up and talk trash and because I like Crawford more than I like Spence, so I'll be Team Crawford that fight. But I just want, ultimately, look, whether you're a Spence fan or a Crawford fan, I just want the fight to live up to the billing and get done for the sake of the public and the people that are clamoring for the fight. That's really what matters. Not me, but the boxing fans. So yeah. Shout out to my main man in Austin, Texas, Robert Sanchez. He said, "What's up, BT? How is Pops? Pop is okay. He had a incident yesterday. So, you know, if you go back and you watch earlier in the live or yesterday's live, you'll see that, you know, he's a little bit lumped up, you know, so he's just resting and recuperating right now. But yeah, you know, all in all, we're all good. We're all you know, just living a good life and trying to make the best of what we have, champ. Just doing the best what we can, what we have. That's what we're doing. That's all we can do. Hope you're doing well. So yeah, in other news, right? And I wanted to talk about this, man, because I gotta call a spade a spade. You know, anybody who knows me knows that I'm like a big I like Tyson Fury. along with like Chocolatito and Crawford and Sinisa Estrada and Angelo Leo and Jerron Ennis, he's one of my favorite fighters. I mean, I got Tyson Fury on this wall I got him on the wall twice. So if you get on the set twice, over there and over there, I gotta be somewhat of a fan of you, So, but I gotta call him out because the reality is Tyson Fury, he's on bullshit a lot. You can never really trust everything he says because Tyson Fury says one thing and then does another. He's always kind of been that way. He likes to play mind games. But bro, Tyson Fury, as you guys can see on the screen, I mean, he's been calling out, of all the people in the world, he's been calling out none other than the Del Boy himself, Derek Chisora. He's been calling out Derek Chisora for a very, very unnecessary trilogy. He said that he wants to be the first heavyweight in history to have a trilogy, but then I don't know if he knows who Muhammad Ali is, but Muhammad Ali fought Joe Frazier, was it 2 or 3 times? I think he fought Joe Frazier 3 times, and then he fought Ken Norton like 4 times. So he wouldn't be the only heavyweight in history to have a trilogy. And this is a complete reach. A complete reach. Anybody who watched the Chisora fights knows that like neither one of them are really close, and Tyson Fury won them both pretty easily. But yeah, as you guys can see, Tyson Fury has reportedly made his trilogy fight offer to Derek Chisora via Gold Star Promotions, which is the company that puts on the speaking event tours for Tyson Fury. If they can reach the deal, the aim is for December at the Principality Stadium in Cardiff, so a big venue. A venue where a lot of things have taken place. But man, like, I have a theory, and I want to throw it out here. This is my opinion on when I read this today. This is what I thought to myself in my head. So we know that Usyk and Joshua are gonna fight August 20th. A lot of people believe Usyk is gonna beat Joshua again. I know Fury would like to fight Joshua, but I really never heard Fury sound too anxious about fighting Usyk. So is this is he trying to get out in front of potentially trying to fight Usyk? Because if he has a fight signed with Derek Chisora before Usyk can beat Joshua, then if Usyk calls him out, he can say, "Well, I can't fight you because I got a fight signed already." So something I'm throwing out there, Tyson Fury. He's very bipolar. Guy's up and down all the time. The guy sometimes says like he doesn't need to be undisputed because he's already owned all the different belts, all the belts at different points in his career. So he's already been undisputed. But that's not really how undisputed works. Undisputed is when you have them all together at the same time. But he doesn't see it that way. So he may not feel the obligation or like he may not feel the burden to have to fight for undisputed like others do. So yeah, I'll be honest with you. They could both be talking shit to see where it goes, but like I really am disappointed that Tyson Fury is even playing around about this because really Derek Chisora is nowhere near like his level. He wasn't then, he damn sure isn't now. So why are we doing this? Like why are we causing confusion? Why are we trying to throw another roadblock into a potential great fight between the winner of Fury and AJ and Usyk? Because technically Fury already says he's retired, but he never really retired. In order for somebody to be retired, in my opinion, from boxing, you got to be retired for at least 4 years. Like the same way it is in like baseball to go to the Hall of Fame or basketball to go to the Hall of Fame, I would say I would apply the same rule for me to actually believe that a fighter is genuinely retired. A fighter to me has to be out of the ring for 4 years for me to say, okay, he's retired from boxing. That's how I feel. So to me, he's far from retired in my eyes, But let's get some comments. Shout out to everybody here. It's your boy BT, the untouchable, true school sports empire. Let me see. Where we at? I saw a couple comments. So my man Fat Apple, shout out to him. He says, even Thurman has ducked Ben. It's millions from Matchroom. Keith Thurman is a joke. Well, Keith Thurman's hilarious. Keith Thurman said he had to Google who Conor Benn was in the interview he did with Fight Hub. Listen, man. Even if Keith Thurman wanted to fight Conor Benn, I don't know, man. I think Keith Thurman lost. I like Keith Thurman. I would love nothing more than for Keith Thurman to catch that fire again and go on a rampage through the welterweight division. But man, Keith Thurman lost his hunger for boxing a long, long time ago. Even though he says he hasn't, his actions say otherwise. The lack of activity, the lack of wanting to fight the younger guys like Ennis, like Ben. His actions to me say otherwise. So hopefully, for his sake, I think if Keith Thurman could just get in the ring and Keith Thurman could get one more fight before the end of this year, I would consider that a massive win. I would consider Keith Thurman boxing twice in 2022 one of the biggest accomplishments of his career so far, because outside of becoming champion and then unifying the division, to me it's the biggest accomplishment, because ever since he reached his pinnacle, his peak, his apex, he has not really been very active, and that's just the truth. Fat Apples also says this fight is a joke. One is a seasoned 168 champion versus a 147 borderline fighter, so he's too damn light. And two, this fight is using the dad's names. Well, listen, we all know, anybody who's been paying attention to how Conor Benn has been moved and how Eubank's been moved through the years, we all knew that this was a possibility. This idea was floated out there numerous times over the last few years. So it really shouldn't be a surprise that this fight got made. As far as Conor Benn being a 68-pounder, I mean, yeah, he was. You're right. He was a 68-pounder because he fought George Groves in the World Box. Yeah, you're right. Wow. It's been a long time since he fought 68, so I kind of forget sometimes, but you're right. So yeah, it's a 168-pounder versus a 47-pounder. Fighting just north of the junior middleweight limit. It really, if we're talking about in a boxing sense, the fight doesn't mean anything. But again, we know that money talks in boxing and bullshit walks. And we know that this fight's a money grab. We know that Eubank is not going to fight any of the top 60 pounders, because he's not going to fight Andrade. He's not going to fight Charlo. He's not going to fight Munguia, and Munguia supposedly now has plans to fight John Ryder, so that fight's not even gonna happen. So, he's not gonna fight none of these guys at 160. We know Conor Benn isn't gonna fight at anybody at 147, because most of the guys he could fight at 147 are all tied up. They've already fought, have fights signed, or are in negotiations to fight. So this to me is the money grab that Eddie Hearn has been fantasizing about ever since Conor Benn became a legitimately decent fighter. Let me see. Fury versus Chisora 3. It looks like it's getting done too. I hope not. I really, really hope not. I mean, it'll be fun. It'll be a fun build-up because Derek Chisora talks a lot of shit and it's crazy. But come on, man, Derek Chisora. Like, why are we even talking about Derek Chisora in 2022 at this level? He shouldn't even be mentioned anywhere at Fury's level. But it's boxing. It's crazy. It's the crazy world of boxing we live in. Let's see. Shout out to my man Self Productions. He says, Peace, he wants 2 trilogy fights. Benn versus Eubank is a good fight. I'm giving Conor Benn the edge. Man, that'd be crazy. If he won this fight, that would be crazy. Because then that would really expose Eubank, who I was really having some hope for Eubank after he had a really good win against Liam Williams' last fight. He beat Liam Williams in a more decisive fashion than Andrade did. So I was like, man, okay, Chris Eubank's got something going now. Now let's use some momentum. And then after that, he started calling out Kell Brook, and then he started calling out Conor Benn, and now he's fighting Conor Benn. So should have really been focused more on winning a middleweight title and try to fulfill that dream of becoming a world champion. But he's now on a cash grab fight. They're using their dad's names, and it's gonna sell, and it'll be a big event in the UK, and they'll get paid well for it. According to what somebody else told me earlier, it's gonna be $6 million plus. So God bless them. I'd rather see Fury fight Hrgovic, considering the guy can't even get an IBF mandatory, considering everyone in the rankings ducking him so he can get a title shot. I'm sick of pointless trilogies. You know what? You're absolutely damn right. Filip Hrgovic has absolutely been put through the ringer this year, in the last year and some change, with the Michael Hunter not wanting to fight. Then you had Andy Ruiz, Joseph Parker, Luis Ortiz, Dempsey McKean, and a whole host of fighters in the IBF rankings turned down the fight with him for the IBF elimination spot. So much so to the point that now he's got to fight Zhang Zhilei. He was supposed to fight Zhang Zhilei as the co-main event on Canelo Bivol. His dad died, so he decided to not fight because his dad had died. Now he's fighting Zhang Zhilei on the Joshua Usyk undercard next month. Yeah, next weekend. Wow, next weekend already. It's crazy. Next weekend. So I agree. If Hrgovic can do his job against Zhang Zhilei, I would rather him fight Tyson Fury, because that's a guy that's actually a credible heavyweight contender. A guy that 6'6", 6'7", undefeated. Medaled in the Olympics, been knocking almost just about everybody he's fought out. I agree with you. Herjavec deserves his shot. Herjavec deserves his chance to prove what he can do at that top level. And anything will be better than the Chisora fight, to be honest. Munguia stopped fighting RB supervisors. Well, he's not fighting an RB supervisor. He's fighting John Ryder. John Ryder's not an RB supervisor. John Ryder is one of the more. I think John Ryder is one of the top 68 pounders that doesn't have a belt. You know, the guy doesn't have an aesthetically pleasing style, but it's very effective. He's very physically strong. I actually think that John Ryder would be a step in the right direction as far as quality of opponents for Ryan Munguia. I mean, John Ryder did just beat Daniel Jacobs. A lot of people, myself included, thought he beat Callum Smith. So, yeah. He'd get schooled at 160. However, Eubank Munguia would be a great fight. That was the fight when Eubank beat Liam Williams. I went on Instagram and I started tagging the Golden Boy matchmakers and stuff because I've had a couple interactions with them before. And I pretty much said, look, man, this is the fight y'all need to be looking into. Y'all should be looking into making a fight with, Eubank, making a fight with Munguia. These are two guys who are, in my opinion, are not going to win a middleweight world title, but these are two guys that are flawed but are explosive and they're vulnerable. And when you have guys that are explosive and flawed and vulnerable, these always make for the best fights in boxing. And I think if they would have actually done right and made that fight happen, you would have got a really, really fun fight. Chisora response to Fury was stop talking shit, speak to Mummy, Frank Warren, and Daddy being Bob Arum, and then get back to that. Was funny. I mean, look, it's funny. It's going to produce great sound bites, but ultimately, like, there's no substance, Oh, I like this guy's name. But I'm going to block him. Fuck him. I'm not listening, man. I'm out here trying to just enjoy talking boxing. Y'all are not gonna get me fired up. I'm not gonna go back and forth with you. If you got some stuff to say online, God bless you. I'm just gonna block you and keep moving. I can't believe people are shitting on Eubank versus Benn. It's a fun fight. Listen, it's gonna be a fun fight. It's gonna be a fun event. Someone's gonna get starched. It'll probably be. I want to say it'll probably be Benn, but Eubank gets hit a lot too. So if Benn power carries up at all. If Conor Benn's power carries up at all in the slightest bit, I think maybe his youth and the fact that he's maybe a little bit more fresher could help him in this fight. But then this might be Golovkin versus Kell Brook 2.0. That's right. He says, remember, haters are your secret lovers, so don't trip true. Yeah, I got a lot of secret lovers. Pause, I got my fair share of haters here on YouTube for some strange reason. I just be on here talking boxing, saying how I see it, and people don't like it. So it is what it is. If they don't like me, fuck them. They got a problem, not me. It is Golovkin versus Kell Brook 2. Man, I really hope it isn't, because I at that point, Conor Benn's career will be done. This who knows, man? This might be one of Conor Benn's last fights. It might be one of his last fights. He might get the piss beaten out of him so much so to the point where he don't have nothing left. Because sometimes that can happen to fighters. So we'll see what happens. A lot of people don't give Joe Joyce any credit, and he keeps proving people wrong. Me personally, I've never been impressed with Joe Parker. He has no killer instinct. Yeah, well, that's gonna be a good fight. I'm really intrigued to see how Joseph Parker, with his new trainer Andy Lee, who he's had for a couple of fights. If Andy Lee could actually get anything out of Joseph Parker that's different in big fights, because if you look at, forget the results, forget the win against Ruiz, forget the losses against Joshua and White, just look at the performances. How did he actually perform in the fights? He really hasn't had any performances from round 1 to round 12 in any of his big fights where you could say, okay, Joseph Parker, he's done something special, A lot of people thought he lost to Ruiz. He lost against Joshua. He refused to let his hands go against Dillian White and caught Adrian Broner syndrome in the fight. And then in the last round of the fight, he hurt him, and then there wasn't enough time left. So, personally, I'm going with Joe Joyce. I just think I've seen enough. I think Parker has fought enough times for me to have a good sample size enough to know that, look, like, he's a top 10 guy. He'll beat a lot of heavyweights in the world, but I don't think he's mean enough. And I don't think he throws with enough volume to beat a Joe Joyce. I think Joe Joyce, that consistent power jab that he puts in your face, the size of this man, the output of this man. I mean, if you look at it, right, his strength is Joseph Parker's weakness. Joe Joyce's strength is his output. Joseph Parker's weakness is his lack of output. So, I ultimately see Joe Joyce grinding him down to a workmanlike performance and getting a decision. But I'll tell you this, if Joseph Parker, if he fights anything like he did in the Anthony Joshua or Dillian White fights where he just does not let his hands go, I could see him getting hurt badly and getting stopped. Joe Joyce is not someone that you can just, shell up against or keep those hands at home with and expect to go to the cards with it. It's not going to happen. Guy throws too many punches. The guy's too strong. The guy's, I did an interview here on True School Sports with the assistant coach for Salas, Edith Calderes from Salas Boxing Academy. He literally has a notepad, and he has a clicker every day in the gym. Every time Joe Joyce throws a punch in sparring or on the pads, he counts the punches, and he has it tracked from October of last year to now, every training session, and he showed it to me. There's literally like Joe Joyce is throwing 110 punches, 100 punches, 105, 113 punches around. So when you have a guy like that who's 6'6", who can throw with that volume, who has that stamina, who has that kind of a chin that he's got, that is a very, very hard guy to deal with. And a guy like Joseph Parker, who has more of the 1990s heavyweight build, he's 6'3", 220, 230-ish. A guy like that who refuses to throw combinations or doesn't really have the aggressive counterpunching. A guy like that, I think, can be liable to get stopped against a guy with the style of a Joe Joyce. So it should be a good fight. We'll see. No. Parker is a good fighter. I like Joseph Parker. I just think when he gets in these big fights, he just refuses to let his hands go. But don't get it twisted. Joseph Parker is a credible world-level heavyweight. I mean, he's a former heavyweight champion for a reason. He didn't get there by accident. So you got to give respect where respect is due. Is the John Ryder fight done? No, it's not done yet. That one hasn't been formally announced, so we're still waiting on that one. But hoping it gets done. Hoping it gets done. It'd be good to see John Ryder in another big fight against Munguia, coming off of the win against Daniel Jacobs, and then I thought he'd beat Callum Smith. So if you look at John Ryder's performances, a lot of people like to criticize John Ryder because he's not super athletic and he's not necessarily a guy that has one punch power. So he relies a lot on physical strength to get into the opponent's chest and kind of grind the opponents down and make them tired and outwork them. So it's not pretty, but it's effective. And I really do think he is, around those weights, one of the underrated fighters. Performance by performance, he's been performing very well. So if he can fight a guy like Munguia, who's been improving under the guidance of Eric Morales, a guy with a big name, and take that O from him, what a win it would be for him in his career. And for Munguia, look, he's fighting at 68. We know he had a hard time making 160. He barely made the weight against Demetrius Ballard, and he fainted at the weigh-in or whatever it was. So Jaime Munguia, might be stronger at this weight. He might be more dangerous. Maybe this might be his optimal weight. This might be the weight where he finally puts everything together and we see the best of Munguia. So I think it's a fight for Munguia where he's not going to be fighting one of the top guys at 168, but he's fighting one of the top guys who doesn't have a title. And it's his fight to kind of test the waters and see what he could do as a super middleweight when the fight happens. So, yeah. Eubank really jumped on that DeGale win. Yeah, I mean, look, I used to be a big James DeGale fan. I like James DeGale. But I remember, because I never met James DeGale, but James DeGale used to do a lot of his training camps when he was fighting out here in South Florida, down here in Miami at 5th Street Gym. And he used to get a lot of sparring out here. And one of my friends, Julian March, who was an amateur, he won the Florida Golden Gloves a couple times. Decent amateur, should have turned pro, never did. But he was one of DeGale's sparring partners, and he was telling me, he said, BT, James DeGale is going to lose to Eubank. And he was explaining to me why, based on some things in sparring. And I couldn't believe how shot to bits that James DeGale was. Tony Montana says, why do you fanboy Andrade for ducking Derevyanchenko, Korwov, Lar, Jamel, and Johnny Beck? Well, I'm not a fanboy. If your punk ass isn't paying any attention, you would know that for the last, month and a half, 2 months, I've been calling out Andrade to fight Johnny Beck because now there really is no other option. So that's my answer to that. As far as why I like Andrade because he's one of the most talented fighters from 160 to 168. He's one of the most talented fighters out there. He's one of the hardest guys to beat. There's a lot of attributes he has to like. So, yeah. As far as other stuff, I'm not going to answer that. But I've been calling for him to fight Johnny Beck. Munguia has fought nothing but Campbell's cans, so John Ryder is a great step up. Ryder is tough as nails. He's very tough, physically strong, doesn't get tired, can box, can counter punch, can do a lot of things. I really do think he's an underrated fighter, but what I've noticed in boxing is that when a guy isn't very athletic, when a guy doesn't have extremely hard punching power and he relies more on physical strength and he's not like aesthetically pleasing on the eye, people kind of underrate those kind of fighters. You know, that happens with him. That happened with guys who have that style. What is so hard to comprehend? Andrade wants a big fight. No more mandatories, man. Well, I comprehend that, but my thing is this, self-productions. With Andrade, right? I think he does deserve a big fight because he's been in the game long enough. He's been a world champion in multiple weight classes. He defended the belt. I think he has about 7 or 8, maybe 9 title defenses over the course of his career. So that shows consistency over a long period of time. He deserves a big fight, but the reality is these guys don't want to fight him. Yes, it is wrong. Yes, these guys find every reason not to fight him. So all you can do in life and in boxing is do the best with the hand you were dealt, whether it's fair or unfair. And right now, with the hand he was dealt, the only viable option is Johnny Beck. The only guy that's jumping up to want to fight Andrade is Johnny Beck. So what I think he should do, I think he should fight Johnny Beck. He should fight him. He'll be on ESPN, so he'll be in front of a decent audience. He'll be on ESPN. Fight him. Try to knock him out. Look as good as possible. Take his O. And then if you could do that, then you use that as leverage and sign with another big promoter. Because I'll tell you this: if he can beat Johnny Beck on Top Rank in sensational fashion, that would give him leverage to then sign with like Bob Arum or someone that could do something for his career. But either way, he needs to do something other than call out Chris Eubank Jr. because as I told you guys a while ago, that was a waste of time. Straight up. No, there are. Listen, like everything you guys are telling me, I'm with you. Like I do think there's a lot of fighters in boxing that don't want to deal with that style because it's a hard style to deal with. I mean, you got a guy who's 6'1", long, rangy, can punch with both hands, really good angles, athletic, defensively sound, hard to hit, very he's not like a big puncher for the whole 12 rounds, but like in them first 3, 4, 5 rounds, he's extremely dangerous. That's normally when he scores most of his knockdowns. So I can't blame them for the money that fighting him would give them. But still, boxing is still a sport, and at some point in time, they gotta fight him. And it's unfortunate because I really do think like they are aging him out. But that's not Johnny Beck's fault. All Johnny Beck did was win the fights that were put in front of him and get himself to the WBO mandatory spot. And if Andrade can't secure those big fights against the Charlos, then the reality is he needs to fight his mandatory because then he's going to lose his belt, which is really the only reason, to be honest. Like, and I love the guy, but it's the truth. The only reason Andrade's maintaining any relevancy in boxing right now is because of that belt. That belt is why we still talk about him. If he didn't have that belt, we sure as hell wouldn't be talking about him because he's active, because he's not that active. That's just the truth. But he's a damn good fighter, and I do think he should be afforded the chance to prove what he can do. And maybe for his sake, maybe this winds up being a thing for him, kind of like a Mike McCallum situation. The same thing happened with Mike McCallum all those years ago when Mike McCallum was one of the top fighters for years and nobody wanted to fight him. But then towards the end of his career is when he got the top fights and he had to deliver. And thankfully, he was able to deliver, and he left a great legacy for himself. So all you can do is stay active, keep winning, and keep that stock rising. Because if you're not doing anything in boxing, then you're doing nothing, and you're stagnating, and time is passing by. And time is the most valuable resource we have in life and in boxing. So, absolutely. Self-Production says Andrade is a great fighter, the boogeyman of the amateurs. He beat great names, and if he beat Johnny Beck, it would give him extreme leverage for bigger fights. That's what I'm saying. I mean, Johnny Beck is not no bum. A lot of people who love Andrade and are fanboys. Now people call me an Andrade fanboy, and I am a huge, don't get it twisted, I am still a huge Andrade fan, but I'm a boxing fan first. So I'm about what's right, fair, and just for the sport of boxing. And I don't think Johnny Beck should have to wait. He's the mandatory challenger. So make the fight. You know, it's a fight that a lot of people are looking at, you know, it being a tough one for Andrade. And then if you beat him, you just took the O of a former Olympian, guy who was undefeated, a guy that a lot of people thought you would lose to, and that would raise your stock. That would raise your stock, and that would make you, in my opinion, a more viable option in the middleweight division. That's just my opinion. A lot of people say it wouldn't, but I think it would. Especially if he fights him on ESPN with more eyeballs on him. Because you got to remember, Andrade's been on DAZN for a long time. And all respect to DAZN, I have DAZN. I've been a DAZN subscriber since the beginning in 2018. But DAZN is only a really, really, really small platform. I mean, they got a bunch of subscribers globally, but as far as boxing concerned, you know, you don't really know what the numbers are. Now we know on ESPN for free fights, you know, when Bob Arum puts a fight on ESPN, no matter who's fighting, it's gonna get 1 million views. If it's a bad fight, 1 million views or close to 1 million views. If it's a really good fight, it'll be 2 million views. Depends on how it's promoted, but they're gonna get some eyeballs. So I really feel like the Johnny Beck fight would be a great way to reintroduce Andrade to the American public, in my opinion, because, you know, he really doesn't fight that often. He doesn't do a whole lot of interviews and things like that. So to me, everybody sees a bunch of reasons to not take the Johnny Beck fight. I see a bunch of reasons to take the Johnny Beck fight, but that's just me. I'm a half glass full kind of a guy. Andrade is not a bum. He's B level. No, I don't think that. I think he's an A-level fighter. And I'm going to tell you why I think he's an A-level fighter. When you're grading out any fighter, not just Andrade, but any fighter, you look at the different departments of what a fighter can do. You look at, okay, how well conditioned is the fighter? How many rounds can this fighter fight at a high level of intensity? You look at that. You look at how hard can they punch. You look at how fast are they. You look at how physically strong they are. You look at how defensively sound they are. You look at all the attributes. What's their mental makeup? What's their temperament? All these things, and you kind of make your own assessments. He's an A-level fighter. He's definitely an A-level fighter. I don't care who you're fighting, right? You could fight C-class fighters, B-class fighters, A-class fighters, D, whatever. He barely loses rounds in most of his fights, and guys like that are not B-level fighters, in my opinion. Most guys like that are not B-level, especially when you can become a multi-divisional champion and defend the belt over 5 times. Because I think he's got in his whole career about 7 or 8 title defenses, maybe even 9. Don't quote me on that, but it's a lot more title defenses than a lot of other people have in boxing. So yeah. The Gorilla, another Tony Sims guy, BT Ben too. Yeah, listen, man. Shout out to Tony Sims. Tony Sims, for my money, one of the best trainers, not just in British boxing, but in boxing in general. I mean, he's the guy that's responsible for improving Conor Benn. He's the guy that had Joe Cordina knock out Ogawa in a round. He's the guy that has John Ryder, who's not the most skilled boxer in the world, competitive in a lot of fights with some of the biggest names in his division. So it's like, shout out to Tony Sims. I genuinely don't think Tony Sims gets the credit he deserves and the flowers put on his name that he should as a top class world level trainer. He's never beaten a champion though. That's true. He hasn't. He beat guys who beat champions though. Like he beat Willie Nelson, who beat Tony Harrison, who became champion. Yeah. Hey, listen, man. We're not gonna sit here and try to defend his business dealings. He's made some really shitty business decisions, signing a Rock Nation, things like that. So he's been his own worst enemy in many regards. But the guy, that duck of Zach Parker showed his true colors, not the boogeyman at all. So are you saying, and shout out to Nordic Warrior. So are you saying he had a fake injury? Is that what you're saying, Nordic Warrior? Because that's the reason he pulled out. I'm pissed off he pulled out too, because I wanted to see that fight. Look, man, I like Andrade, and I'm not gonna lie. Like in this whole year, really, like from January to now, I like Andrade. He's still one of my favorite fighters, but I'm not anywhere as high on him as I used to be. Just because I feel like the walls are closing in, and it looks like he's lost the hunger. And my thing is, like in life, it doesn't matter if it's boxing, business, anything. You lose hunger for anything, you might as well just call it quits. So at this point, he really is just looking for. I think he really is just doing it for the money. And I hate to say it, but it's almost like Canelo was right. He does want the payday. We all want paydays, but it seems like that's all he wants right now. Because if he wanted something more than just a payday, this Johnny Benn fight would have been done already. Johnny Benn fight would have been signed and sealed and delivered. If he was injured, it would have been rescheduled, but now he's calling out Eubank and apparently back at 162. Well, the reason he's not fighting Parker, Nordic Warrior, is because the WBO won't allow him to fight Parker. Because if you remember, in January, and you could even go Google this, in January, when he wanted to fight Parker, the WBO initially said no. They actually initially said no, you can't fight Parker, you got to fight our mandatory Johnny Benn. Then, like 2 weeks after they said no, I guess Andrade or someone worked out a deal with the WBO where he could keep his title at 160 in the intermediate time, but still fight Parker at 168 for the interim. And if he would have won the fight, then that would have given Andrade the option to defend the belt at 60 against Johnny Benn and go back down, or to be the interim champion at 168 and explore a future there. But then he pulled out, so then the WBO was like, okay, well, we're not going to wait any longer, so you got to honor the original mandatory who we wanted you to fight in the first place anyway. So the Parker fight even happening in the first place was the WBO pretty much saying, okay, we can make a deal, but you got to make, this has to happen by this date. And it did happen by that date for whatever reason, so that's why they're fighting Johnny Benn. He's not willingly going down to 160 to fight Johnny Benn because, as you can see in the interviews, he doesn't sound like he wants to fight Johnny Benn. Thanks. YouTube never recommended your stream to me, by the way. I actually had to go on your channel. I don't know why, man. YouTube's always trying to get me beat. YouTube's always trying to, do that. But I appreciate you, Nordic Warrior, anyway. Make sure y'all go subscribe to the Nordic Warrior. Guy's been on YouTube for a long time, putting out great world-class content. I don't agree with everything he says, but he's always worth the listen, and he's always fun to listen to. And yeah, I mean, that's what it is. Now, well, let me see. What else we got going on in boxing? I mean, I'm checking the news right now. Teofimo Lopez says, people call me delusional, but I'm the greatest of my era. But, all respect to Teofimo Lopez. He's fighting Pedro Campa. And I saw the betting lines, right? I'm not really much into the betting lines, right? But betting lines are interesting to look at because betting lines will give you an idea of what the fight is perceived to be coming in. So, like, I saw the betting lines, and I believe Pedro Campa was like a plus. What was he, like a no? Yeah, like a plus 2,500. So for those that don't know anything about betting, 2,500. That means if you were to go to Las Vegas or any sports book, and you were to place $100 on Pedro Campa, let's say he knocks out Teofimo Lopez or beats him, you pay $100, you get that 2,500 back. And normally when it's like that, that means that the fight is so lopsided, Nordic Warrior picked Carlos Meat. Oh yeah. Well, listen, we all get predictions wrong. I'm not here to chastise anybody for getting a prediction wrong. He got that one wrong. I've gotten fights wrong before, so shout out to him. I personally thought when that fight got made between Smith and Canelo, I didn't think it was going to be competitive at all, and a lot of there's a theory on this. Nordic has made videos about this, touching on it, but like a lot of people don't even think that a lot of Canelo's fights are even true, are even real, that they're fixed, and I can't blame them. Sometimes them shits do look fixed. No, I don't think the Bivol fight was. I think the Bivol fight was fair and just, but man, he had to box his ass off just to barely win. So even when you go in there and you put on a masterclass performance, they still try to screw you. Self-production says, I'm off topic. Do you stay in Davie? True. I'm from Miami, but my mom stays in Fort Lauderdale and Sunrise. Shout out to the whole South Florida. No, I don't live in Davie. I'm originally from Dania Beach, but no, I live much further south now. I'm out here in Homestead, so I'm way away. But yeah, I'm in South Florida. I never picked Callum Smith, by the way. He lied about that. Well, listen. It don't matter if you did or you didn't. Was Callum Smith versus John Ryder fixed too? Listen, man. If you want to talk about a fight where there was blatant corruption, that was a fight that had blatant corruption. There's no way on earth, there's zero way on earth anybody can convince me that Callum Smith won that fight. No way. Callum Smith lost that fight. The fight was in Liverpool. It wasn't the first time John Ryder... Okay, cool. Callum Smith versus John Ryder, whatchamacallit, was a fight that was so blatant. I mean, when John Ryder fought Rocky Fielding, a lot of people thought he won that fight, and he didn't get the decision. So it wasn't the first time he got an unjust decision in Liverpool. You know, even when John Ryder fought Billy Joe Saunders for the British title, I mean, I don't think it was. I mean, I think Billy Joe deserved the fight, but it was close. I thought it was closer than what most people thought. Tony Montana. Is Tony Montana Hyro? I feel like that'd be Hyro. Hyro makes these fake accounts. But shout out to all 30 of you here. It's your boy BT, the Untouchable, True School Sports Empire. You know, we're live here in the afternoon, 6:22 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in South Florida. You know, Conor Benn versus Eubank's official. Crawford and Spence are still in negotiations, but I have reason to think that the fight will probably happen. And Tyson Fury's calling about Derek Chisora. So that's pretty much boxing in a nutshell. And Teofimo Lopez is fighting a Mexican that really doesn't have a big chance, but you know, it's boxing. Anything can happen in boxing. You don't want to write anybody off, but man, he's a huge underdog for a reason. You know, the Top Rank has the best matchmaking in the world, and they picked Pedro Campa for a reason. You know what I'm saying? So some people thought Ryder beat Saunders, also a very close fight. That's what I thought, because I've watched that fight like 2 or 3 times. The first time I watched it, I actually thought John Ryder beat Billy Joe Saunders. But then I watched a couple other times, and I thought Billy Joe won the other 2 times I watched it. But it was a close fight, and I really feel like John Ryder does not get the credit he deserves. And anytime his name comes up and I have a chance to talk about him, I'm going to talk positive about him, because I get sick of people talking about him like he's some bum when he's not. He's tested himself. He's shown his level and his worth in boxing. And you got to respect a guy like that. We got too many guys in boxing these days that are living off of hype, hoopla, and potential. But this is a guy that's actually went in there and he's fought people. He's actually performed. He's actually won some fights. He's actually done his damn thing. You know? So that's what it is. One guy was comparing John Ryder to the old American fighter from the 90s, Dave Tiberi. I don't know if you guys remember Dave Tiberi, but Dave Tiberi was a fighter that fought James Toney, and he had kind of like a similar style to John Ryder, to where like he wasn't the fastest, he wasn't the strongest, he didn't have great punch power, but he was physically strong, had great stamina, and he would just kind of grind you down, get in your chest, and make things very physical for you. And that when he fought James Toney, Dave Tiberi, the fight was looked at to be such a lopsided fight going in that they didn't even have a betting line for the fight. Dave Tiberi beat the piss out of James Toney, who was very lazy that night, and really won like 8-9 rounds against the guy. Easily. Beat the piss out of him. They gave the fight to Toney. It was such a corrupt decision that the fight had to go to a federal investigation in the United States. And they said they would give Tiberi the rematch, but Tiberi pretty much said like he wouldn't take the rematch unless they wiped the L off his record and gave him the world title. They said they wouldn't do that, so then Dave Tiberi abruptly retired from boxing because he's a man of principle. Shout out to Dave Tiberi. Hyro, shout out to my man Hyro. Hey, everybody in the comments, make sure you guys show your appreciation to Hyro, because all these like compilation videos that have been coming out on the channel of fighters with the audio and stuff of me talking and all the crazy stuff that are in those compilation videos. This is the guys that are making those videos. All of them. Tony Harrison, the Tony Harrison one, the Anoye, all of them. So just show your appreciation for Hyro, who's been helping the channel get some great content. But he said, I quote, if Don King was still the commissioner, this fight would have been done. I hear we're getting an undisputed fight, but I forgot that champion since they fight once a year like Gary Russell Jr. Yeah, you're quoting me. I did say that. I said if Don King was still the commissioner of boxing, Crawford and Spence would have happened already. I really believe that. Now, they might have been like, where is it at? They might have been like this guy right here, Daniel Dubois. I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's a program from the Daniel Dubois Trevor Bryan fight. They might have been like this guy right here, Daniel Dubois, and they might have not gotten paid, but the fight would have happened. The fight would have happened already. Benn and Eubank will be a classic, I feel. Benn will work Eubank's body, break him down, but not without Benn taking some punishment. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what Conor Benn can do in this fight because he's fighting somebody big. See, you got to give it to Conor Benn. Conor Benn, I've been criticizing him a lot because he's been fighting a lot of these guys at 147 who really weren't natural 47-pounders. You guys like, Algieri, who's way past it. I mean, I'm talking like way past it. I love Algieri. He's a friend of the program. He trains up there in Boca Raton, and I see him around local shows in South Florida sometimes. So me and Chris, we're cool. I have a lot of love for Chris Algieri, but he hasn't been active over the last couple of years fighting. So, I mean, Chris Algieri was whatever. Adrian Granados, another friend of mine. Tough as nails. Always down for a fight. Made Conor Benn look really bad because he changed his style that fight, but ultimately, really a 40-pounder who's been used over the years as the gatekeeper to 147-pounders. A lot of these guys, he's been fighting. So for him to actually fight a guy that's a 60-pounder, a guy that actually competed at 68, shout out to him. We'll see how it works out. I'm just praying for his sake it don't end up like Kell Brook. I really hope for his sake it don't end up like Kell Brook because, whether you love Conor Benn or hate Conor Benn, you don't want to see any of these fighters have their career ruined. But then again, I can't really feel bad if his career gets ruined because he decided to take this fight and it's a straight cash grab. That's what this is. They're gonna paint it as a fight where it's for legacy and things, and there might be an element of truth to that. There might be a little bit of truth to that, but the reality is Conor Benn and Chris Eubank is a money grab. If this fight, I'll tell you this, if these guys weren't getting paid $6 million a piece, plus probably pay-per-view upside on top of that, then you probably couldn't get these guys to take this fight for $2 million. I promise you. So money talks and bullshit walks, like it does in boxing and in all facets of life. But it's your boy BT, the untouchable True School Sports Empire. It's the evening show. Hope you guys have been enjoying the boxing talk. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you're new to these parts, and definitely check out all the content on the channel. We're definitely growing, and I'm happy with where I'm at, and I'm happy with boxing finally picking up. Finally getting some good fights made and happening. We got the return of Teofimo Lopez this week, so make sure you guys join us for the live fight reaction extravaganza. It'll be a fun one. Xander Zayas is on the undercard, I believe. So he's looking to make his another step towards becoming a contender in the 154-pound division. You got two of South Florida's very own, two products of the Davey Powell fighting on the card, Teofimo Lopez and Xander Zayas. So looking very forward to that, and I want to hopefully we get some good performances. And then next week we got two fights next weekend. We got Joshua versus Usyk, and then Broner versus Figueroa right out the road here in South Florida, Hollywood, which I'll be at. So expect some content that week. Expect some content. But yeah, any other questions, any thoughts, comments, concerns about boxing, let me know in the comments down below. Fun fact, guys, I'll be honest with you. I know about Nigel Benn versus Chris Eubank Sr. I know about their fights because anybody who follows British boxing at all has heard about these fights. You've probably seen highlights. You've probably seen the infamous clips of, Chris Eubank telling Nigel Benn when they were signing the contract on Sky Sports before the first fight to, let's have some parliamentary procedure, But I've never actually watched both those fights, so I guess now I'm going to have to really watch both those fights from start to finish because I've only seen clips and I've only seen and heard about it. So, yeah. Also, good point. Thank you, Jairo. Emmanuel Navarrete is also fighting this weekend. I completely forgot. I completely forgot. But you got him fighting this weekend. You got Nico Ali Walsh is fighting on the undercard. You got a couple other guys. Giovanni Santillan on Top Rank. So got that as well. Styonnes versus Boots. That right there, Self Productions. That's the fight that I feel needs to happen. If there's any truth to this Crawford and Spence thing, and I have good reason to believe there is truth to Spence and Crawford based on some things that were told to me today. I truthfully believe that fight should be the co-main event. I think that fight should be the co-main event. People are talking about Jaron Ennis being this and Jaron Ennis being that, but the reality of the matter is we're not going to really know how really good he is until he fights another young, hungry, undefeated welterweight. So I feel like Styonnes is the guy that's worked his way into getting that WBA secondary belt. This is a guy in Styonnes that I really don't think is getting the credit he deserves as one of the top young guys in the division. He kind of gets overlooked because he's in Lithuania and he doesn't really talk and he's not in the media like that. But the guy can flat out fight. He can fight his ass off. Very physically strong. Showed you in the last fight he could box a little bit against Butiev and neutralize the punch output of a very determined fighter like Butiev. So that's not a safe fight for Jaron Ennis. That's not a fight where you just say, oh well, he's gonna win for sure. If Styonnes can take him to the later rounds, I think he's got the attributes to really give him some problems, and you never know in boxing. So I would love to see that fight, and that should be the co-main event of Spence Crawford. But I definitely give Boots the edge. And those are great videos. Those compilation videos from Hyro are world class, and I never really asked him for the videos. He just makes them because he likes them and they're fun, and I just throw them on the channel. So shout out to him. Boots would stop Rashidi. I love that fight. We had Rashidi Ellis on here like last month when I interviewed him, and he called him out on here. So he's willing to fight him. He's one of the only guys in boxing that want to fight Boots, and it's calling him out. So I would love that fight. Fury is not working with Sugar Hill for the Chisora fight. His new coach is Isaac Lowe. I don't believe that. I think he's absolutely taking the piss out of everybody with this whole Chisora situation. I don't believe that he really wants to. I mean, if the money's right, I'm sure he will. But I'm saying I really don't think he really want to fight Chisora like that. And I definitely don't believe he's training with Isaac Lowe. I think that he's just talking shit because he's bored. And he just wants to get a rise out of everybody because he knows we're going to come on here and talk about it and speculate. And once that happens, Fury has you right where you want to, I love the Tony Harrison video. Great stuff. Pop soundbites were awesome on that one. Yeah, Pop. Yeah, because what Hyro does is Hyro just goes to my video archives and he just rips the audio from videos or lives and he just puts them in the videos as he sees fit. He does a great job. I really enjoy him. He neutralized. Yeah, because the reason why I think I value the winner of Butiev so much is because, I had a chance to be there at the Mandalay Bay last year when Butiev beat Jamal James. That was also, you guys may remember, the same card where Jaron Ennis fought as the co-main event against Thomas Delorme. And I remember, I didn't know a whole lot about Butiev at that time, but I just remember him throwing a lot of punches, having a lot of tricky angles, having great stamina. So when he beat Jamal James the way he did, not to say that Jamal James was some world beater, but Jamal James is a credible, he's a credible top 15, 20 welterweight. And Butiev went in there and just outclassed him. So that's where he made a statement. So I thought when he fought Styonnes, I'd seen Styonnes fight a little bit. I saw him fight. I think he fought Collazo, and I saw another fight of his. So I knew Styonnes was good, but man, he really, really showed me a lot in that fight, and I had that's why I rate him. That's why I think he's more than worthy to fight the Virgil Ortizes and Jaron Ennis's of the world, and I think that's the fight we should be getting next. Styonnes versus Jaron Ennis, and you know what? I'm gonna throw out another welterweight matchup that I like to see on that undercard. But I'm not like high on the undercard. I'm talking like deep in the undercard. Like I'm talking about like in the early preliminary stages of the undercard when like nobody's in the stands. The fight that I really think PBC should look into making to also put on the Spence Crawford undercard is Jamal James, who I just mentioned, against Pistol Pete Dobson. Now, for those that don't know, Pistol Pete Dobson's been one of the best kept secrets in boxing for a long time. He just scored a big win against Jose Miguel Borrego a couple months ago. He was Terrence Crawford's sparring partner a couple times. Guy can flat out fight his ass off. Business of boxing has kind of been unkind to him. Got locked into a bad contract with Lou DiBella, so he lost some valuable years of his career. But he's been steadily in the dark, getting wins, and I would like to see him get a chance against a name welterweight. So Pete Dobson, Jamal James, something like that. I like that fight, or maybe Pete Dobson versus Harold Calderon, a fight I've been clamoring for. These would be good fights to have on the undercard as well. El Termario Boxeo. What up, BT? What's up, champ? How you living? I wouldn't be surprised if Fury does that because he beat Chisora twice before without Sugar. Isaac is going to take a lot less cut. I mean, listen, crazier things have happened in boxing, but one thing I know is that Tyson Fury and Sugar Hill Stewart get along great. I know that they both love to take the piss out of people, and they both like to joke around. I mean, I've never met Tyson Fury. I haven't met him yet, but I've spent a good amount of time around Sugar Hill, and Sugar Hill is a lot like Fury. They both joke around. Fury's the more extroverted guy. Sugar Hill is more of like a carefree guy. But they both are the same. To their core, they're the same person. They both love to joke around and get a rise out of people. So that's why I don't really believe. I don't believe that he's not working with Sugar Hill. He'd be stupid not to. Sugar Hill Stewart's the best coach in the world, in my opinion. One of the best coaches, if not the best coach in the world. You know, and I've seen a lot of good coaches in person, but he's one of the best, if not the best I've ever seen in person. You know, world class. But yeah, guys, listen, on that note, look, guys, I've had a lot of fun talking to you guys. We're about almost 90 minutes into the live, so if you got any more questions, drop like 1 or 2 down below and I'll get to them. But we're going to wrap it up soon, so definitely I'm going to answer like 1 or 2 more comments, 1 or 2 more questions, and we'll get out of here. So shout out to everybody here. Make sure you smash a like button. Definitely super chat if you feel led to and you want to support the channel. You know, we're growing and you know, I'm going to work on getting some interviews for you guys here in the not so distant future. So be on the lookout for all of that. Let me see. Shout out to Pops. You know, hopefully Pops recovers soon and whatnot. Let me see. Ellis versus Boots. Good fight. Like that fight a lot. Hopefully Ellis gets his opportunity. You know, he's a PBC now, so there shouldn't be any more excuses for Ellis to not get the fights against the top guys, the top names. Canelo versus Boo Boo, who wins at 168? It's a great fight. You know, I think in the early rounds, Demetrius Andrade will be a big handful for Canelo because Demetrius Andrade is known for getting off to fast starts and being very explosive and very dangerous. If Canelo can avoid the shots and not get hit with anything too crazy in the first 4 rounds, I see the fight being very competitive. If you would have asked me this 2 years ago, I would have said Boo Boo, but right now, due to inactivity, I would say Canelo wins a close decision. Honestly. He says, thank you for supporting the channel and Bay versus Farmer. Oh, that's right. The real fights this weekend. Mickey Bay versus Tevin Farmer. That's right. The biggest fight in boxing. Would you see that fight playing out like Plant? No, not exactly. Because I think Boo Boo punches harder than Plant. But I actually think it would go the distance. I don't think he would get stopped. I think the fight would go the distance. I think Boo Boo would probably box well enough for people to think he won the fight, but then he wouldn't box well enough for the judges to give him a decision the way Bivol did. Because look how good Bivol boxed, and he barely got a decision. So if he did all that and barely won, you know, if Andre don't do something close to that, then he's not getting a decision. Hell no. So it is what it is. But on that note, guys, look, I'm gonna wrap it up. Program reminder once again, we'll be live this weekend for Teofimo Lopez versus Pedro Campa, so make sure you guys join us for that and stay tuned for all the content. Yeah, he would respect Boo Boo's power more than a Caleb Plant, absolutely, and especially because it comes from different angles and it's very awkward. So yeah, absolutely. But yeah, live fight reaction this weekend. Make sure you guys tune into that. Continue to support the channel. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Support the real, because when you support True School Sports, you're supporting the real and not the fake. And yeah, on that note, you guys take care. God bless. Have a great rest of your day. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me. But I'm just a kid from Dania. So until next time, take care, guys.